All right. Here we go again. Welcome everyone to the November 17th iteration of the MicroProfile live hangout. If you're on the call, please add your name to the list of attendees. A link to the meeting minutes along with the attendees is in the chat. It is everyone's shared responsibility to take notes. This meeting is being recorded as well as the chat, so both will be uploaded to YouTube after the call. All right, so
let me add something here, John. The meeting today is focused on MicroProfile 4.0 release discussion. This is not a community call, FYI. To everyone listening.
It kind of means the same thing, I think.
No, it doesn't.
Well, right now it does because the focus is on the release.
Call. Yeah, right. It's either a steering committee or it's community.
Okay,
and
yeah.
This is community.
Yeah, at this point, where we're at, but your point is taken, Amelia. So the agenda items I've got right now are to continue the checklist, see where we're at, along with I'd like to get a status of how close others are ready to actually follow along with what config is done and kind of work on a final release. Emily's got a release plan here link. We'll take a look at that, I guess. And then we haven't really gotten to the platform release discussion in a while. So is it a marketing release or a spec release? So let's not do that absolutely right now. So let's begin with the checklist. Is there an update on the checklist?
Yeah, if you click on the issue, John, the issue 4. So basically, after the last week's call, we work with Kevin. Closely trying to look at the checklist. I think now I believe kind of the pretty much is kind of ready to be assessed to see whether it's a fit for final release. So basically, all the things that has been ticked, and also looked at the. Can you scroll down a little bit? Kevin also added the checklist and etc. So it's for the review checklist. So I think it's we pretty much there, and then maybe it's kind of we have a quick look at this checklist to see this issue to see whether we can go ahead to do the final release.
Yeah. So now there's I know we went back and forth on this, Emily, but now this has been converted into a template now, right? And then yes. This is what would be used for all of the components for creating their issues?
Yes, so that's a good point. So this is the template has been merged into this repo. Basically, I used this template to create another issue for tolerance. So for this part, so John, can you go back to the issue? Can you go to the click on the click on the issues and then to see the other issue 5.
And so can you put the link in the chat, by the way, just quickly?
I'll go to the.
Thank you.
So we're just trying to see whether the template is good enough. So we create the fault tolerance 3 spec review directly from the template.
Scroll down. Yep. So we're missing a compatible implementation certification request.
So yeah, there's to the bottom of this is a compatible certification request. There will be a link. So log a issue, add a link. So this is the template. So if you go to the, sorry, John. So this is template. If you go back to the issue 4 again, so you can see the link. So and then we can look at the CCR. So this issue, Roberto, I mean, again, this template has been made to the MicroProfile config. So this issue directly created from MicroProfile config. So you can have a quick look at yeah, everything.
Okay. Can we include, can we move the check, can we update the checklist so that we don't have the compatible implementation under the Eclipse EMO processes? Just to separate those two things.
Under the, can you go back?
Everything
So,
under release review is basically Eclipse requirements.
So, okay, the release review, and then you are saying which, oh, you said the release review, just the hiding is EMO or something like that.
No, I was simply saying that you got it, Kevin.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just clearing my throat.
Okay. Everything under release review is basically like the Eclipse requirements for a release. You got to have a release record. You got to email the PMC. Then there needs to be something towards the EMO. So the compatible implementation requirements, you know, they should probably be not tucked under.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Good.
Okay.
Good point.
That's a good point. So in this case, we move the summary, blah, blah, to the like before the release review.
It can be a top level requirement right before release review.
I will take action to correct the template.
Okay.
And also correct this issue and then the next issue. Okay.
But it looks simple.
Yeah, thank you. So with that, like, are we kind of, I mean, allowed to do the kind of the final release for MP config, or I mean, what's the next action?
Well, what do you mean by final release? You mean actually release it to Maven Central?
Actually release MP config too.
Well, we need to go with another. We need to start the release again, right? And because this is an RC, so we just drop everything and do a final release following the complete template and following the complete instructions to actually put something for a vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all those approvals have to complete before you can technically put that content out.
Right.
Right.
Which approvals?
Oh, he was just simply saying the vote has to pass before you could hit the publish button.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, but before hitting the push button on Nexus, we need to basically do all of those steps, right, and put something for a vote.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So basically, what Roberto is, is a Jenkins build. We need to staging the MicroProfile 2.0 in Nexus, and then put up for a vote. So
the what Emily and me are asking is basically, are we in a position where we can actually start the process to do a final release of MicroProfile config in this case, and put that up for a vote?
Yeah, I would say so. But so we still need to define how we actually. So we have these check marks. These are only initiating an email to the PMC. That's not the PMC approval. We also need, you know, the actual approval from the EMO and then the vote of this. So, I mean, how we're capturing all those things needs to be clear too, because this is, again, the issue we've run into on the Jakarta side. Is it looks, everything is checked off, but we don't actually have the approvals recorded. You know, we don't have an infrastructure to actually track those effectively. So how we record all that and then actually tell the spec team, yes, you can actually close your repo, move your specs to the download area, etc., is like the final thing.
If I understood correctly, didn't you have to open up an issue on Bugzilla for that, and then you just track that issue, and that will be your approval? And the other thing is the mail on the email to the mailing list. Then you just track the thread on the mailing list, and that will be your approval as well.
Right, but the issue is how are we recording that approval, you know, back on this issue or something. I mean, somewhere we need to know.
Can
I can
we,
tell you go and hit the button.
Can just the link for the email thread and the link for the Bugzilla, isn't that enough?
It's not authoritative. I can't look at this issue and then know, yeah, this is completed all the steps.
Yeah, well,
So-
so what we need
So-
is like labels on here that are like
Yeah.
approved.
Yeah, I guess that would be the easiest way.
The
Yeah,
other
so-
is for log the vote. I think it's I think we discussed before. Is are we going to just vote on this issue with thumb up?
yeah, we should do
We-
that actually.
Hold on, we can, as far as I'm aware, there's some requirement, so that looks, I would be fine with that. There's some requirement, however, that something hit the list and be archived, right? So like the official votes, if I recall, need
Yeah,
to be
right.
on an Eclipse list, right? Like we couldn't decide to do them in Google Groups, for
Yeah, I
example.
need to go into the working group. We'll read on that last call.
You know, and so as far as I'm aware, there does need to be some list presence, but maybe that's, you know, maybe it's sufficient for somebody to post the results afterwards. But,
So basically, if we add a label for each of these last 4 checkboxes, then I think, you know, when those labels appear, then anyone, so for example, if John and Kevin, if Kevin was, let's say if someone wants to put out the content, they would be able to go in and see, yeah, this is completely done.
Oh yeah, so it's based on what Scott said. I think Kevin also mentioned like this send the MicroProfile -WG for voting. So there will be Jakarta E has a kind of email template. So also like maybe we can borrow some of the Jakarta E email template, or we even simplify just saying put this issue link to this issue and say ready for voting or something like that.
Yeah, I think that'd be fine.
either of those are fine. I think the most important thing is that when something we're not really doing on the Jakarta side of the fence, we should probably do. It says, you know, approved for release, which is specific, but we don't really say what phase explicitly it is. Is, you know, there's, I mean, I'm a little picky on these regards, but it should say release review, plan review, progress review. Should be clear, like probably in the subject.
Yeah, agreed.
As one.
Well, isn't that the purpose of that release review label?
It's
In
not
the email, subject of the email, right?
Yeah.
The
Oh,
voting.
okay.
Yeah.
Mhm. Can we, I think we agree that labels will be the easiest. Can we adjust this and, you know, make it, I don't think it's a good idea to use the Jakarta template. It's too long. We can cut it into 3 sentences and just push that through the working group, like Roberto explained. But maybe we should add that as part of the documentation on the working group wiki, so that the copy paste and all the data for that portion is there as a few things in here, because this one is just the list, super concise. But in a different ticket, we were talking about how we will operate, and that is a part of the wiki. We need to be really good at stating and giving all the beef on the main wiki, so that all other specs can go in there and copy paste and know exactly what to send without reinventing the wheel. That's my recommendation. Yeah, I was not talking about these 3 wiki. I was talking about the MicroProfile main wiki that says about releases.
Yeah, well, the reason why I brought this, I was just looking at some of these, and I find this interesting in that we have, I think this might be the first time I've actually seen this in a release plan, where it talks about, it's basically this section that she pulled out of the spec, right? About what's actually changed. And I don't know if I've seen that in other ones. And I don't know if it matters if we have consistency here. So let's pick health, for instance. Oh, no, that is there. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think I'm lost,
All right.
John. I have no idea what you're trying to say.
Never
Maybe
mind.
someone else can explain it.
Ignore me. No, ignore me. Fake news.
Ignore you.
So John, can you refresh the spec release that issue? So I just did what David suggested, reformatted the format, reformatted the kind of the checklist. So is that roughly what you are suggesting, David?
Yeah, that's roughly right.
Okay.
It probably could be one bullet, but you know, it's okay.
Oh, the yeah.
I'm not sure how those two bullets are different.
Me. Oh, you mean the log issue? Which two bullet?
Yeah,
Summary.
yeah. Summary of the compatible implementation is complete and log an issue. It could be just one bullet. You know, check the
Oh,
bullet,
okay.
provide the link to the. We should be updating it with a link. So basically, should be check that box and provide the link to the request, right? So people can just click the link. That's good enough.
Okay, yeah. Try to reword it. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So what do we have that's outstanding here? Anything else?
One thing that needs clarification here is that we need to say the working group mailing list needs to be added for the vote. Because for anything that has to do with voting.
There.
Oh, there, perfect. I didn't see that part. Okay.
So there was a question then about, does anyone have an issue with actually having a final build of config that we can vote on? I think that was an outstanding question.
This looks good to me.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Try it out.
so let's, yeah. Well, first, yeah, actually, good point, Amelia. You know, thanks everyone. I know a lot of folks worked really hard on this checklist and just knocking off one item at a time. So this is awesome. So let's if we do a mini timeline here, you know, the config team will do a final build. The resulting artifact will be a closed repo link. Right. Sorry, a link to a closed repo that we can then see. Staging repo that we can take a look at. So then the question becomes, assuming that gets done, well, let's ask the question. When do we think that would be done?
We could do it by tomorrow, I think. So I think that's
Okay.
Yeah, the process we can start it by tomorrow, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if
Go
go ahead,
John.
Amelia.
My question is, when we send that message for the vote, thing that I see that Jakarta needs to do is in the voting request, add the start date and end date for the last moment where you can vote or day. That is missing, and some people miss that kind of vote. If it doesn't have a deadline, procrastination happens. Can we do a little bit better and add the parameters of the timeline for voting and that message? Even in the subtitle, not subtitle, but in the subject, say voting due date. And, you know, I would love for that to happen with MicroProfile because it is an issue and I'm concerned and we expect everyone to know what's going on. But if it's not in our eyes, we tend to forget. We cannot use the MicroProfile calendar for that because that is overhead. But if we use the email and just add this extra layer, we can help all ourselves do better with not missing the vote on this one and future votes for specifications. How do we feel about that?
I think
Yeah, I
it's
mean, that's consistent with what we've been doing with the Jakarta EE votes as well.
Yeah, they
and then-
do have a date in the message, but she's asking also for it to be added to the subject, which would be a good addition.
Subject, because the message is too long. We need to short that to 50%, and then in their title say due date. There, that Scott, you nailed it. Thank you so much for clarifying my message.
vote by this date. Yeah.
Well, so the vote by this date means there's a 2-week, correct me if I'm wrong on this, right? We have a 2-week with a minimum of 1 week if everyone votes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what
Right.
I'm thinking as well. I think it's better to just make sure people vote within that 7 days. If you cannot count.
Well, we cannot put a
You
due
have to be
date as
careful
1
with
week.
that.
Right.
Sorry?
We can't put we cannot put a due date of 1 week. Technically, the due date is 2 weeks, but we can say in the message that we could conclude voting if everyone votes, you know,
Within a week.
with a minimum of 7 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could just say, please vote by X, drop
Yes.
dead date of Y.
Bingo. That's even
Yeah.
better.
I like
That's what I meant.
Yeah, well, I love it.
Write
Yeah.
down in the minutes, John.
Yeah,
So-
so we can do that because we added flexibility so that Oracle company can join or can choose to consider joining MicroProfile. And it took a lot of conversation. However, we need to clarify this because we added extra flexibility, but it doesn't mean we need to be not direct on the expectations, right? Flexibility is there, but this is what is ideally what could happen, right? Like, I mean, we can do it, I believe. Let's try it.
So I'm heading him into a final release. I'm just a type and we could clean it up.
Whatever vote we're doing, you can say type voting.
Yeah, actually it would, well, let's do this.
The template is type voting, type of the vote, and then ta-da-da. Like, I can help on that.
Please vote by 1 week, drop dead 2 weeks. Now we can massage this, right? With real dates.
Yeah. Variable replacement.
Yeah.
Well, even the content of the message is something that we kind of standardize for Jakarta EE. I wonder if we need to do that for MicroProfile as well.
I like the idea.
I would love for that to happen. Can we do that, please?
Yeah, why don't you do that, Amelia?
I will do it. Task me on it and I do it. But it needs to be done, otherwise it's not happening. You know already, I told you in another ticket, the tasks I have embarked on.
Well, let's try to be a little bit pragmatic. Let's try to write something, and I mean, there's going to be 7 other specs to write emails from, so we can just iterate on that and improve the template. We don't need to go crazy and nail everything from the start.
Yeah.
Right. So that. Well,
you will get my thing in 1 hour. After this call, within 1 hour, I will post it here and add you to it, and you can use it and iterate on that, and we can perfect it later. Give me 1 hour.
So, yep. I was just gonna kind of say the same thing, Amelia, because the same thing that happened with the template for the issue. It was easier to just create one and then modify that until we got it right.
Yes, we just move, Roberto. You just move, and anything is stopping us from moving forward, just call it out because we don't have time to waste. It is November what? I see someone saying that we will be done with this on December 1st. Who added that to the calendar? That is too positive.
Yeah, well, it's sometime in December.
But we have it currently listed. MicroProfile 4.0 release meeting, but it means, is it meeting or is it the release? We don't have a date. So can we soon agree on the deadline? We need that deadline.
Yeah.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Well, go ahead, Kevin.
I was just going to say that right now, I don't know that do we have enough data to indicate, to pick a deadline?
We don't know when it's going to happen, right? We should just do it.
Yep.
People have been waiting for months. I mean, we don't need to be issuing dates right now. Let's just get it done.
Okay, so can we get, maybe now is a good sense to gain a sense of where we think the other specs are. So I kind of listed them.
I made a quick edit of the thing. I wanted to get Emily's attention on it just real quick. If you want to flip over to it.
Just here?
No, the request we were just looking at, yeah. How's that look for the compatible request? I tried to follow your format to make it consistent looking.
Yeah, it looks good. Thank you.
And then if you click.
Wait,
Oh,
this?
Oh, that was a mistake. Sorry, I messed something up.
I was going to say, I don't know about that.
Isn't that amazing, guys? I found a way to ruin markup.
This is why I said after the
unreadable.
I will go fix that. But anyway, click the certification request. So I changed the title because the title just said certification request from, it said MicroProfile config certification request. You know, the implementation name should be in the title so people can see them without having to click on each individual one to find out the implementations that are certified.
Was it RC15?
Yeah, it now says okay. It now says small RAI compatible certification request. It did before. If you scroll down, the old title should be in the edit history somewhere. Yeah, it did say MicroProfile config 2.0 RC11 compatible certification request. Did not mention small RAI at all. So I'm just saying, you know, a user who wants to see things, you know, you should be able to click the labels and get a list of everything that's been certified and be able to see via the labels which implementations have requested certification and the ones that are approved. But if all the requests simply say MicroProfile config request, well, you have a lot of work as a user to try and figure out which ones are certified. You got to click each one individually and read it. So, you know, a little adjustment to make people's lives easier if we just put the implementation name in the request title.
Yeah, good point. I think is some other spec might have a multiple compatible certification requests. So use that title to differentiate them is good call.
Emily, what we're learning here with this process will come into the website under page, under projects. And I think, remember the template you helped us create for the landing page? Do you believe, and it's not now, this can happen later, but do you believe some of the work here can be borrowed so that we can make that page automatic and not like use front-end developer and Ryan to update it each single time? Just think about it. We all need to think about it, but when I see this, I see a great potential for us to have the website, especially the projects page, be amazing.
Yeah, we can look at that after this release. Yes.
Yes. Okay, cool.
Anyway, I just wanted to call out that we should make sure to put the implementation name in somewhere in the title of the certification request.
Yeah, good.
And then I'll go fix that mistake there.
Okay.
Yeah. Looks good. Thank you.
FYI, those labels are proposals that I added to config.
I love them. They are all purple. They have my approval, Scott.
Yeah, you forgot Amelia approval. You've got that label.
True.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Wait. Okay. I was on mute. Sorry. Those labels, though, shouldn't they be on the MicroProfile working group repo? Because aren't these being used for the issues, not for the individual components?
That's right. They should be in the working group repo.
Oh, okay. That's where the issue is?
Yeah.
All right. My mistake. All right, I'll move.
What is CI approved?
Compatible implementation for spec has been approved.
Okay.
I think it's first good for this one because the CCR compatible implementation is in the MicroProfile-config. I think one label need to be there, right?
Yeah,
At least the CI approved need to be there. The WG approved, that's my pick. Can be moved to a MicroProfile-config. That's for that issue. So the bottom 3 label moved to the MicroProfile-WG.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the right place to bring this up, but CI approved threw me off. It probably threw a lot of people off.
We can be CCR.
Well, so when people are filing these things against the project themselves, I think the bare word approved is simply fine because there are no other types of approvals that the certification request has to go through. Basically, the project just needs to accept it.
Yeah, actually, I think the flag that we use in Jakarta EE is accepted.
Okay, accepted is fine.
Accepted. Yeah, that's fine. Accepted.
Yeah, I think we have accepted and rejected. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, we do have a rejected. We haven't used it yet.
So in this case, like we just use accepted label for like MicroProfile-config. All the other specs are also MicroProfile-WG to accept the issue, right? The final release. The release.
I think approved is fine for these.
Okay.
For the last 3.
Okay.
Did we, Scott, did you say something like CCR approved or something like that instead of CI approved?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or just the bare word accepted, right?
Yeah.
When some, what's important is that when people file these things, we need to have a label on there that it's a certification request. So then 1, people don't have to put certification request in their title, which just makes them super, super long. And then 2, you can click the certification request button and see all of the people who have filed, right? So that's a kind of a nice way to get a little bit of UI we don't have, which is where's the list of approved stuff. You could basically click certified requests, see everyone who has applied. You can further click approve accepted, and you can see all the ones that have been accepted.
So I have a question here because we vote, for example, so MicroProfile config 2.0, like we vote the working group vote. Who will put this label approved? I mean, toward the end, if it's passed the vote, and then who's the task to add that label?
Well, I think that's a good question, and probably the answer is a little bit recursive. The person who put the vote up should probably be the one who puts the label on it. Who should be the person who puts the vote up? Now we've just moved the same question a little earlier, and it's still open and unanswered. So I don't have any thoughts on, there needs to be like a draft label so people can be clear. We're still working on this. Don't think it's ready for ballot yet. There needs to be a ballot label so that it's clear something is in vote, right? Once a ballot label has been attached to something, no changes should occur. And then there's approved, the 3 approved labels, right? So, so while something is in draft form, it shouldn't go up for vote because it's still being worked on by the spec project. They need some way to say we're done. So that would probably be taking the draft label off. But then we need someone to initiate the vote.
Kevin was saying, we discussed this last week. Kevin was saying one of the rep, right? One of the working group member need to initiate this email. Am I right, Kevin?
Right. I mean, I think somebody from, this group, I guess, whatever we call it, the steering spec committee group, Because the reason I brought it up is because we don't want the individual projects to initiate the ballot without actually going through some vetting and reviewing from somebody on the committee.
So how
Yeah.
do we do that? Can we do an e-form, a Google form that triggers that to get to the working group, to get that to the working group? Like something super easy that any of the projects can just use that, send it off, and move forward. The Google form, the coolest thing is that it can be added into Excel sheets and it can be listed by each release. I really love it, and I think we should do it, or something similar. Doesn't matter if we need to pay, now we have the budget for it.
Here's the thought. What if there's the kind of thing where a spec project, not project, so it's one big project, the spec team puts this together, they have the draft label on there. They take the draft label off, and that basically signifies we want some sort of like, we're ready to go. We want some review. We get, I don't know, 2 people who are, what we'll call, who have binding votes, right? We get 2 of them to say this looks good with some sort of thumbs up on the issue. And then that's enough for the person. And then it actually could be the spec team that puts it up for ballot. But we got like confidence because at least 2 people who have to give eventual +1s have indicated they think it's ready. So some sort of like minimal pre-vetting.
Right.
Just thinking out loud. What we don't want is a spec team to go, hey, and launch off a vote, right? And then like so many things that are wrong with it. But if at least two people who are experienced and capable and will be voting on the final result indicate they think it's ready to go and they would support it with their +1, then, what are we waiting for?
Well, if we do that, what would be interesting is almost for people to sign up to do that for each one of these things.
Yeah, there are only 8.
Well, the spec teams are signed up to do their own work by definition.
Yeah, there are only 8.
But you were saying that you wanted, I might have misread what you said, but I thought you wanted 2 people outside of the spec team, but are binding voters to actually do that. That would, to me, imply we could, if we wanted to, have people sign up, those with binding votes sign up for these specs to do just that.
Yeah, they could sign up.
That's a good point. Because
I'm not saying as a matter of process. I'm just saying because we know these things are happening right now,
sure,
and they're happening all at once, that we could do that if we wanted to.
Yeah, we can also do that. That's what we do on the Jakarta side of the fence. We just divide them up and say, you take this one, you take this one, you take this one, and you take this one, and that works too.
in this case, John, can you click on the link, the spec release plan? We can add 1 column there. Basically, I try to work out all the dependencies and then borrow the like Jakarta E release, and then like to see which one can be released first. And then we could add another column here, maybe that to act as mentors or something like that, and to see the like people can put their name here, right? As volunteers, and to see which spec they want to help with. They want to take a look. So basically, while you are adding the like a column and etc. So it's so basically like health and GWT can like hasn't got any dependencies and etc. can go ahead to do the release. So config need to release it first because so many spec rely on config, and then config go and then rest the client, and then some other spec rely on the kind of rest the client, or config can go later.
Emily, the name of the tab or the page needs to be specific to the release. 4 is too generic how you have it. And I recommend that you create upper tab where it adds for reviewer, and you don't have the main tab. Is like all of it is difficult to read. It said line 1. What is line 1? Needs to be bold or something. I'm just speaking on like how I read Excel.
Yeah, can make a line 1 bold.
I think that if we're going to officially assign people, we don't need 2 reviewers. 1 is fine.
Right.
You know, I was simply trying to think of a way where we could proceed completely lazy. You know, let the spec team drive things all the way to the finish line, but with enough checks and balances that we got confidence.
That sounds amazing to me.
But if we want to do the explicitly assign people, then I would say we just, you know, use the same terms that we would use on the Jakarta side of the fence, just call it a mentor, right? And just they're there to help the spec team across the finish line,
Right.
as someone outside that spec team.
We could even use this mentor to initiate the vote as well. He just
we do that. Yeah, you're right. That's what we do on the Jakarta side of the fence, is that basically the mentor is the one who pulls those spec through the process.
Yeah, exactly. I think that makes perfect sense, because if I mentor one spec, I checked everything, I'm confident. So in this case, like I can initiate the vote for that spec. In this case, we don't need to like, I mean, okay, I tick a box, and then we hand over to somebody else. There will be a long delay, etc.
Well, say that again, because it sounded like you were saying you wanted to do the vote for a config, in which case we're not using the mentor process. We're using the spec-driven process, and we just need, again, some confidence that someone outside the spec thinks it's ready before it goes up to vote.
No, sorry, I wasn't clear. I said that if I am the mentor for one of the specs, for example, maybe JWT.
Okay.
I checked the list. I'm confident. Yeah, that is good enough for like the vote, and then I can initiate the vote. Basically, yeah.
Right.
So for this call to action, let me say this. With this call to action, because it's so important, and we have a few members not here who have the chance to vote on, who will have to vote on this, can we send a new thread to the forum, to the regional forum, to ask everyone to volunteer? And we just change reviewer to mentor, and then we explain it, because this has been going for like 7 minutes, and it's going to be hard for that person not in this call to understand why they care and why should they join this. So it needs to be right up and send the request with the link. It will be my recommendation, because we can go on. It's 11:47, and I think this is a really good idea. We need to.
I would just simply say that if we do this mentor approach on Jakarta, we roll the dice and we put people's names on these things. And in order to not drag the process out, we would probably have to do the same here. It's just, you get voluntold, right? You're randomly assigned, and you know that keeps this whole, we can't have 2 weeks of looking for volunteers, right? That doesn't really work.
Correct. No.
So if we're gonna do the you're assigned and you're the mentor and that's your role, and if you can't do it, you should say so. That's one approach. It's great. It means someone has to do the random assignments. The other approach is the spec team puts the list out, puts the thing out to the list and says, we're ready to go. Can we get some preliminary views? And as soon as they see 2 thumbs up from voters, they can put the spec up for vote. That's the other potential approach.
Right. I prefer the first one, because this is kind of, we are finding our own way. It's better be managed by a few people who knows the process fairly okay, I would say. And then if we sign people, I think this will speed up, because we are running out of time. So I'm just worried about, so we couldn't release this year. We can't assign the names here in this meeting. I mean,
Emily, how comfortable are you to own the list of the steering committee assigned? Clearly, I'm not technical, so don't do this to me. But how comfortable are you to just put a few names in there and move forward?
I got a script that will randomly assign. So if you, I'll show you how to use it.
Even better.
You need to you input the spec names, you input the people who can vote, and then it just puts them together.
I have a question about those dependencies. For instance, within the REST client specification, there is a mention of the fault tolerance annotations. There is nothing in the TCK, there is nothing in the code itself, but in the spec doc, there is something. Is that important or not?
Oh, you mean REST client mentioned the fault tolerance. So that's only
Yes.
means the REST client can be used together with the fault tolerance.
Yeah, but indeed, it just mentioned it that it is required that all the annotations are supported of fault tolerance on those REST client interfaces, but it's not in the TCK, it's not in the code, it's only, I think, 2 sentences even in the spec. Is that important for determining the phase there and the order of the of the specs?
I don't think, I don't think a REST client has dependencies on the fault tolerance. This is, again, is because this is all the spec released under under one platform release, and then you can use multiple specs together. So that's kind of just define a use case. Is kind of if there's no fault tolerance, REST client perform exactly as kind of spec.
But that is then something we can address later, that we have some kind of an umbrella TCK which checks those things.
Yeah, if there's an umbrella TCK, and then check how the spec works together, how they interrupt and etc.
Okay.
Okay, so back to this. Sorry, go ahead.
One thing that showed up when I was working on the promote script is that config had made some changes to how the build. So they're attaching the spec artifacts to the spec POM, and Roberto had mentioned there was also some changes to some of the licensing content. Yeah. So we need to make sure that all the specs are updated with this similar stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So in the actually today I went ahead to do a PR to aggregate the Roberto's change and my change happened in the past 2 weeks. So that's the one in one single PR. So I got fault tolerance a par with MicroProfile config. So once I get once I get the RC release, I will kind of send an email to the mailing list so that I think so that other spec can follow fault tolerance that single PR. I think also Roberto and I will help with other specs. Need to at least to do some like a review and etc. Make sure the other spec can produce the right content.
Sure, we can do that. That was one of the reasons why I also suggested on the mailing list to provide the parent POM to share that configuration. Well, not only this configuration, but some other common configuration that we have across all repositories, because it's kind of a pain when you have to change an aspect of the release or the build or wherever. You have to replicate that over 8 repositories or more.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can go ahead to do this in parallel anyway. So,
this is not related and it can come later as a nice to have. But Emily and Roberto, the two of you, everyone is doing so much work, but the two of you are pretty much leading how, tackling the issues and things like that. Would you consider at a later time writing a blog when we launch MP4
So the two of you co-authored that, and we added as original content in MP4 so that we can block it, push it, and add it in ping in the profile to end the year with that, the blog, because it's so much work. And I think you two deserve like the highlights. Everyone deserves it, but that blog will highlight what went down on this release. There's the first one of its kind. How do you feel about that? And consider it something that you can think about it for later. And you can say no, of course.
I think it's a good idea. I think we need to do a more kind of publication, more advertisement about MP4 because it's overdue. So
yes,
Well,
and
I think a blog is okay. It's just that it shouldn't focus on me and Emily work, because our work is just developers don't care about our particular work. We're just cleaning up what we call this is just bureaucracy. If I have to say that word, developers will just care about the new APIs, new specs, and that's what the blog should focus about, not the bureaucracy behind the release.
And I apologize. I'm going to kind of interject here because we have 5 minutes left. Let's see if we could take this offline. I do think it's a valuable topic, but one of the things I'd like to get a grasp of is what I have highlighted. Is how close do we think the other specs are to begin? Let's see. I guess how far out are we from initiating a vote on the remaining specs? Maybe that's how I'll phrase it.
So for other specs, from a functionality point of view, yes, they are good, but they need to do the PR, as I mentioned, for fault tolerance to get all the staging, all the PDF, HTML produced, and also copyright, correct copyright, and etc. So that PR needs to happen. So this is what I mentioned earlier. Roberto and I will help other staff to get that PR ready, get their like a release candidate out to check everything is okay.
So maybe if I ask the question this way, is there any spec that thinks they are more than 2 weeks out from initiating a vote?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
One thing need to be bear in mind, if you go to the spec release plan, you cannot release a fault tolerance right now. You have to release metrics first, because that's need to not this one, the spreadsheet. So that's need to be considered. So now we can release phase 0 or the spec phase 0 and phase 1. Maybe we can target for next week release phase 0 and phase 1 this spec. And once like a config been voted in, and then that kind of go to the Maven Central, and then kind of the fault tolerance can go ahead to do release. REST client. And
well, then we were talking about doing the config release tomorrow, right? So we can take the balance and do it for metrics and health as well, and do 3 in a row. It's just a matter of actually preparing those projects, and we already had the work done on config, so it shouldn't be too hard to push and try and test if everything's working fine on metrics and health, and we'll just create issues for all 3 projects and have them review or pre-review, so we can do like a parallel voting on all 3.
So that would be that's a good point. So that would be 4. If we say tomorrow we get a config metrics, health, and a JWT out, or even tomorrow, or maybe say this week. Tomorrow is
well, yes, this week, yeah. Okay.
If this week we get these 4, like phase 0, phase 1 out for ballot, and then if we concluded within 1 week, and then we can do like the phase 2, and then we can do the phase 3. So that would be a kind of in 3 weeks time. So that would mean in December we will be able to get 4 out.
So if we're talking about, let's see, if we're talking about having everything ready to vote on, or already in process, or maybe even finished by 3 weeks out. The last, phase 3 is a long poll, right? So what we're talking about, if those are 3 weeks out, if we begin the voting 3 weeks out, then we're talking about 5 weeks for long poll again. So conservative in this case, 5 weeks, and we'll have all the specs, assuming everyone votes final.
Yeah.
So that leaves us roughly right around Christmas.
Yeah, that's a great present. So this year is a great
That's cutting it close, right? So we're gonna have to be pretty diligent because
too close,
PTOs
but
and all of that stuff. And then so next week, I think what I'd like to do is get a status update on the various specs to see how we're doing, and work on the platform versus marketing release for MicroProfile 4.0, and any kind of probably marketing related things that we'll need to cover as well. So we'll see if we could squeeze those in for next week. All right.
Yes.
Okay. So
yes, let's do this.
we're at the top of the hour, so I'd like to thank everyone for attending, and hopefully see everyone in 1 week, same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks, everyone.
See you all.
Great
All right,
work.
thanks everyone. Huge thanks.
Bye.
Thanks. Great job, guys and gals.
I'm gonna fix my video so I don't look like I'm the undead next week.
I didn't want to say it, but yeah.
You're a well-lit undead at the very least.
Okay.
Undead YouTuber.
Yeah.